You're listening to episode number 52 of the Bold Life Movement Podcast. Welcome to the Bold Life Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and each week I bring you inspiring stories from real people to help you live a more passionate and intentional life. You'll learn how to up-level in everything from relationships, entrepreneurship and leadership, to spirituality, sexuality, and yes, even money. If you're interested in raising your game to be a better business owner, a better lover, and a happier, more fulfilled human, then you're in the right place. No more living on autopilot. You are just an episode away from a bolder, better, more fulfilling life. Hello and welcome back to episode 52 of the Bold Life Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and this week we are continuing our money mini-series with the millennial financial planner and all-around badass businesswoman, Sophia Bera. I brought Sophia on today because frankly, so many people have no idea what they're doing when it comes to managing their money. Whether you're a new business owner like most of my clients, or you're employed with some decent cash coming in, chances are you weren't taught in school how to manage that cash flow, or how to make your money work for you in the long term, or even how to cultivate good financial habits. Fortunately, Sophia knows all of this. And if you check out her press page on her website, genyplanning.com, you'll see that a lot of other people want to know too. She's been featured on everything from CNBC to Forbes, from New York Times to Fortune magazine. And now she's here to share her knowledge with you. So grab a pen or follow along at theboldlifemovement.com/052 and let the Money Mini Series roll on. Please welcome the one and only Sophia Bera. Sophia, thanks so much for coming on. I know we've spoken offline because we're friends about the importance of having your mind on top of your money and having some sort of financial plan in place, but I'm really excited to bring your expertise to my listeners. So thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So will you kick us off by explaining what the difference is for anyone who doesn't know between a financial planner, which is what you are, a certified financial planner, and then maybe an accountant or a bookkeeper? Like, how do they all play together and what's the difference?
Yeah, so a bookkeeper would be somebody who is helping you with your monthly cash flow and books for your business. Okay. So they might be using an accounting software like QuickBooks or Xero to help you with that. And then a CPA is the person that does your taxes. So that would be a certified public accountant. So they're tax specialists and they might help you with tax planning throughout the year as well. And I work really closely with a lot of CPAs to help my clients figure out how we can, use their money to match their values to live an amazing life. So that's what I do. And if I can work with their CPA to figure out how can we save you tax dollars while we're kind of reconfiguring how your money works, that can be super helpful. So a lot of times we're just moving money from one pocket to the other pocket. But when we do that, there's a tax implication in doing so. Mm-hmm. And so I really like to help my clients really strategize into how to manage their money more effectively.
So what type of person would need a financial planner? When you said bookkeeper, you mentioned a business owner, but it sounds like anyone could really benefit from having a financial planner on their side.
Yeah. So what's great about working with a financial planner is a lot of times in our 20s, 30s, 40s, we're going through a lot of life changes, right? So people are moving, they're accepting new jobs, they're getting bonuses, they're quitting jobs to start their own business, they're buying homes, selling homes, getting engaged, getting married, taking care of family, all of these big changes, right? And a lot of times that's my clients are like, oh yeah, I did 3 of those last year, right?
Yeah, without any help.
Right. And so, people are like, I don't know who to go to talk about the fact that, I just got this new job. My income's going up a ton. I don't know how to read my company benefits package. What do I do with my old 401k? All of those things might just be things that are tied to a job change, not to mention oh, you're moving to a new city for the job, all might have to sell a home, find an apartment in a new place or buy a home in the new place. So basically, I worked in traditional financial planning for years and was really frustrated because you needed assets. You needed like money in order for traditional financial planners to be able to work with you. And I was watching my friends grow their careers. I was watching my peers, climb the career ladder very quickly to all of a sudden they're making six figures and their lives look very different from how they did, 3, 4, 5 years ago when, okay, they had some student loans and a checking account and now they're making six figures and are engaged and have stock options, right?
But have no idea what to do with all that.
Right. But we're like, I just paid off my student loans. Now what? Like, I don't know what happens now, right? Like I've been doing that for the last 5 years or whatnot. So that's why I decided to launch my own business, was because I was really frustrated that there was a lot of millennials out there that were making good money and wanted financial advice on how to navigate through these different life changes and were willing to pay for it, but didn't know who to ask. And so a lot of my clients are high income earners, low assets. So they just haven't had time to accumulate the assets yet, which is why I charge a little bit differently. So I charge a financial planning fee to do a comprehensive financial plan where we really talk through all those different areas of your financial life, from cash flow, so money going in and coming out, to insurance, which we don't think about. We don't think about protecting what we have, right? To paying down debt, building up savings, getting on track for retirement, and traveling and, doing those other things that come up as part of life. So I build a comprehensive financial plan. And then what I love is that my clients work with me throughout the year. So they pay a monthly retainer so that they can reach out with questions. They have unlimited email support. We do a few check-in meetings a year. I generally meet with my clients about 3 times a year. And I have clients across the country, which is really fun. So people are, living and working in a lot of cities, from New York to Austin to Minneapolis to San Francisco. And
I love how you dropped Minneapolis in there.
Oh, yeah, that's my hometown. From like, the middle of middle America to the coast. And people have all these like really fun, interesting, exciting careers and jobs. And I get to be on their team to help them navigate through their money and through these big decisions.
It feels like there's a lot of different types of people who benefit from a financial planner, but you mentioned individuals who might be paying down debt. And as someone who has struggled with debt, I'm wondering, how do people get over the hurdle of like, well, I quote unquote can't afford a financial planner, that's why I'm in debt. So like, how does that look for those types of individuals? I'm sure I have some listeners who are in that bucket.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it's a tough one to really say like, oh, if you, some people would say like, oh, if you have debt, you don't need a financial planner. You should just be like aggressively paying down your debt. However, I work with a lot of clients that do have student loans, for example, or or are paying off the last of their credit card debt or a car loan or whatnot. And a lot of times it's like they need help figuring out which order do I pay these off. I help people talk about, what are our options for refinancing student loans, refinancing car loans, figuring out, how to strategize and navigate through their debt. So I think the big thing is your income, are we bringing enough income in to justify paying a couple $100s a month to work with me on an ongoing basis to help, figure out a plan that's going to get you out of debt faster? And that can often save you thousands of dollars over the life of your loans, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a balancing act. I have a short application that people can fill out on my website, and my team goes through and kind of figures out, hey, here's who we think would be a good fit for being a client of Gen Y Planning, and here's who might be a better fit for talking to, one of I have people in my network that do student loan calculations. So if somebody's like really overwhelmed, let's say they just graduated from law school and they have 6 figures in student loan debt, and they're like, oh my gosh, Sophia, I can't even think about a financial plan until I figure out like which student loan repayment plan should I be on? Which student loan should I pay off first? How does this work? I have a couple friends that specialize in student loan repayment programs. I have another friend that specializes in budgeting and cash flow. So he works with a lot of people that are like, I have no idea where my money is going. I'm making it, no idea where it's ending up, So we'll make sure that let's really make sure you're working with somebody that's going to address your immediate needs now. And then a lot of times 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, some of those same people come back to me once they're like, okay, I know where my money's going, or I feel like I'm ready to invest in financial planning, because it is, an investment. But I do think that there's some people that really can benefit. I work with several clients that have some debt, and we're like, let's figure out a plan for that.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun to be able to say, but I don't let you just worry about your debt. I also say, hey, hi, what about retirement? What about this 401k match we're not taking advantage of? Or what about, making sure we have life insurance if you have kiddos? So, those types of things too.
What do you find are like the biggest mistakes that millennials are making when it comes to their money?
Yeah. So the first is not taking credit card debt seriously. I think that sometimes there's this, if your friends have debt, if you're used to going out a lot, you don't really realize how much that interest is stopping you from achieving all of your other financial goals. So that's a big one. The second one is not saving for retirement soon enough. So getting in the habit of saving for retirement, even if it's just a couple % to your 401k, or even if it's just setting up a Roth IRA at Betterment and doing $100 a month, getting in those financial habits is super important, because then, okay, we paid off this credit card. I'm going to bump up my 401k contribution by 1%. Hey, I paid off my car loan. I'm not paying, $300 a month for my car loan anymore. I'm going to double my 401k contributions, and you're already in that habit. You already have that set up. Yeah. And so now we're just redirecting money that you're already spending every month from debt towards your financial priorities.
Yeah, definitely. And so for someone who is in debt, what do you feel like is the first step that they should be taking? If they're looking to kind of re-establish new habits and make financial planning a priority in their life, what is one easy win that they can get, that first step?
Yeah. So I think creating a net worth statement is really important. And what that is what you have minus what you owe. And so it's your assets, which is what you have. So how much is in your checking account or your savings account? What about your retirement accounts? Put those all on one side. Those are your assets. And then how much do you have in debt? And for each of your debts, listing out, what's the balance? What's the interest rate? What's the minimum monthly payment? How much am I paying towards each one of these debts? And really formulating a plan for that. So once we see what we have, we can subtract what we owe, and we can figure out our net worth. Okay. And your net worth is really fun to track, because a lot of times once we start measuring those things, all of a sudden it becomes okay, this is serious. How do I get this up? Yeah. How do I? Yeah. So I work with a lot of clients, when they start working with me, they have a negative net worth. They'll be, negative 50 grand. And 6 months later, it's negative 20 grand. And 6 months after that, it's, positive 15 grand. And suddenly it's whoa.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah. From when we started working together, a year later, your net worth went up by $65,000. And I'm serious. These are because we looked at it. We acknowledged it. Yeah. We figured a plan for it. And we started taking action. And so
I'm going to have that in the show notes for sure. A great action item for people who are listening is to figure out their net worth statement.
Yeah. And that's a great way to it's kind of like taking your blood pressure, or, tracking these other things that we do. If you're trying to lose weight, but you never step on a scale, you're not going to lose weight, you know? And it's
what Tony Robbins says, what you don't measure, you can't manage.
Same with debt, same with your net worth. And then it becomes really fun once we figure out, okay, here's a plan. Here are the interest rates for each of them. I generally recommend paying off highest interest rate debts first, but sometimes we can refinance. And so, suddenly something isn't as high of an interest rate as we thought. Well, if we just bury our heads in the sand and we never take a look at it, we don't know that. We don't think about, hey, what's a solution that I could come up with to have a more affordable, to be able to pay these off faster? And then, okay, if I have $500 extra every month, which debt am I putting that towards?
Yeah.
And just really creating an action plan for getting out of debt. And then what becomes fun with the net worth statement is, oh, now I'm watching my assets go up too, right? So it's not just about watching one number go down. It's also about watching, hey, my 401k is going up. Hey, that monthly contribution to my savings account is really helping.
Yeah.
And so what the thing is that we are, by decreasing debt and increasing assets, both of those things are increasing your net worth.
Yep. Simultaneously.
Exactly. And so that's what's really exciting for people, is going like, oh, people will say like, oh, Sophia, like I didn't get done all of the action steps, from our last meeting. I didn't get a chance to set up my estate plan yet, and it's like, it's okay. Like, let's just check in and take a look at your net worth statement to start. And we do. And they're like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't believe how much it went up. And a lot of times it was because we set things up automatically. And that's what I kind of mentioned earlier, was starting those good habits, right? So just starting that 401k, right? And just like setting it and forgetting it for a while, setting that $100 contribution to your Roth IRA or that $200 monthly contribution to your savings account. And just doing that, and 6 months later, taking a look and saying, wow, that's a good habit that I started. I am, I have some emergency savings now. So
For people who are listening that own their own business, what does retirement savings look like for them? What are good banks that they should be using for high interest savings accounts? What does a Roth IRA option look like for them?
Yeah, great question. Sure. So for business owners, it's a little bit different. One option that we have are to contribute to IRAs or Roth IRAs. So you can contribute up to $5,500 per year. Okay. And you have until the tax deadline of the following year. So there's just a few more days left for people to get in their Roth IRA or their IRA contributions for 2016, even though it's 2017. So that's a great solution for people who are looking for like, okay, what's like an easy thing that I can do? And I think that those are great. So if you don't have a retirement plan through work, you may qualify for a deductible IRA. So that would be basically you would get a write-off that $5,500 on your taxes.
Nice.
Other people might say, hey, I'm early on in my business. I'm in a really low tax bracket because I've had a ton of deductions this year and I haven't made that much money. I'm going to do a Roth IRA because I'm going to pay the taxes now. I'm not going to get the tax deduction, but that money grows tax-free. And when you withdraw it in retirement, you might be in a way higher tax bracket at that time. And so it's really good that you paid 15% taxes now, so you're not paying 33% taxes on it later when you take the money out.
So those are the two types, deductible IRA and then the Roth IRA?
Yep.
Okay.
There's also a non-deductible IRA. Don't worry about that as much. We want to take advantage of the other ones first. But the other thing to consider is, let's say your business is in its, third, fourth, fifth year, and now you're making some money, right? Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden, what are you stressed out about? Taxes, right?
You don't want to claim all that income.
Right. All of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm making money. This is so exciting. And then you're like, crap, I have a big tax bill.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Crap, I have to give all my money away.
Yeah. And so now we have a new problem, right? And so for those people that, you're starting to make six figures in your business, for example, a SEP IRA is a great solution. And the income amount it's usually 20 to 25% that you can put into your SEP IRA. And it's ridiculous. It's like $53,000 is the max, like something insane. But that can be really helpful if, you're making $100,000 a year and you're able to put 20%, which is $20,000 into your SEP IRA. That could reduce your tax bill by $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, depending on if you're in the 25% tax bracket, it would reduce your tax bill by $5,000, and that's money for the future, right? For future you. That money is growing and that you get to keep more of that money.
That's awesome. Very helpful.
So that's something that I think is really important, is that oftentimes when we're early in our businesses, look at doing a Roth IRA. And as we start to make, more money in our businesses and start paying higher taxes and go into that 25 or 33% tax bracket, a SEP IRA is really important. And pretty soon you'll have a team.
That?
Yeah, SEP.
Okay.
IRA, and it stands for Self-Employed Pension Individual Retirement Account. So IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. And that's why you're set up on your own by the individual rather than it being tied to a company like a 401k or a 403b plan or whatnot.
Definitely. So in regards to, or should I say, for anyone listening who has recently started their business but hasn't gotten a bookkeeper or realized what they should be doing for their accounting or, learned any of these investing opportunities that we just talked about, what is the number one thing that they should do? The very first thing that a new business owner should do in terms of their money?
Yeah. Track it.
Track
your income and track your expenses. Because pretty soon you're signed up for a bazillion different web subscriptions to things, right?
Yeah, your expenses add up very quickly.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't realize like, oh, that one's $49 a month, that one's $19 a month, that one's $129 a month, and all of a sudden it's, oh, I have $500 in overhead, right? Yep. So it's figuring out what's my overhead.
But I work from home and
yeah, am I still using all these things? Oh, I want to hire a freelancer. Can I afford to do that? What's the revenue that's coming in? How much income am I generating, right? Yep. So being able to decide then when you can outsource certain pieces, right? Okay, I want to outsource this. I need a logo for something, or I want an editor for my blog post or whatnot. If you don't have the income coming in, you can't afford to outsource those things, right? So it's really important to keep track of, how much money is coming in, the inflows and your assets the revenue that you're generating from your business, as well as the outflows. And also to figure out how much recurring revenue is coming in. What part of your business is recurring revenue versus what's that one-time revenue? So some businesses might make a lot of money during launches, right? Yeah. They might have these like short sprints where, but then they might have, 3 months where they're prepping for a launch, right? And then they launch, and then 3 months where they're prepping for a launch, and then a month of the launch. And so figuring out, okay, what are the outflows? What do we need to make to make money on this launch? Because sometimes we might think, oh, I need to make 10 grand. Well, if your overhead is $2,000 a month,
and you spend 3 months preparing,
suddenly you're not making any money off your launch.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Very
Good.
helpful. And so do you have any suggested apps? I know you mentioned Xero earlier, but is there anything else that you think really stands out among the rest as far as tracking?
Yeah, so FreshBooks is used quite frequently for a lot of like freelancers and people who are trying to, I think it's a really good solution for people that are trying to, keep better track of stuff, and you send them a bill and people can pay through PayPal, or you might be able to pay with a credit card or whatnot. Wave Apps is another one that's a free accounting software that's great and is a really easy way to take payment and whatnot. What's so funny is a lot of early entrepreneurs, we forget that we need to make it easy for people to pay us. And it sounds so basic, but people are like, okay, I think I have somebody that wants to work with me, or I think I have somebody that wants to buy my product. And it's like, make it easy for them. Are you using Stripe? Are you using Wave? Are you using, like, whatever it is, make it easy for people to pay you, because that's one of the barriers to people paying you. A lot of times people don't want to accept credit card payments because they don't like the fees that they're hit with and whatnot. And it's like, if you could be getting twice as much business accepting credit cards, accept a freaking credit card.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
2017.
Right. It's kind of like getting in the way. We kind of get in the way of ourselves a lot of times.
Let people give you their money.
And make it easy for them to do so, right? Yeah. Make it easy for them to say yes. So I like Wave Apps. I like Xero. I use QuickBooks Online because a lot of bookkeepers know QuickBooks. And so it was one of the things that I was like, this is one of the first things that I'm going to outsource. Yes. So I want to be able to easily find somebody to do this for me. So thinking about that too. Now I think and that was, 3 or 4 years ago. Now I think Xero is way slicker, has a way slicker interface than QuickBooks. But at the time I was like, I just need this to work. And it's been really easy for me to be able to outsource that, to be able to have a bookkeeper on my team that I pay for just a few hours of bookkeeping services a month. I don't need that person full time, but that saves me a ton of time. So kind of figuring out as you ramp your business, what small things are like dragging, taking your time that you could easily be outsourcing to other people.
So are there easy ways that people can set themselves up for success when it comes to bookkeeping? For example, only putting all of your business expenses on one card, or running it all through one bank account, or things like that when they're first getting started, they just might not know.
Yeah. One of the best things that I recommend is setting up a separate business savings and business checking account from the beginning, so that even if you don't have an LLC set up yet or whatnot, also like consult a lawyer whether you should have an LLC set up, and talk to your tax accountant. Again, I'm not a lawyer or a tax accountant, but
disclaimer heard loud and clear.
In terms of ease of like, how do we keep track? How do we make this easier on ourselves? One of the biggest mistakes I see that early entrepreneurs make is commingling business and personal funds.
What about freelancers?
Same thing. Okay. Yeah. I think freelancers often are like, oh, I don't have like a business. I just am like a freelancer and I just do this thing on the side. Yeah. Stop it. You are an entrepreneur. Start thinking of yourself as an entrepreneur. Same with artists, right? I was a theater kid. Like, I go back to my alma mater and I speak on moving from artist to entrepreneur, right? People are like teaching dance, and they're waiting tables, and they're like, they're choreographing a show, and they're acting in a musical, and all of those things are like, oh, I get a 1099 from this, I get a W-2 from that, I get a 1099 from this, I have to bill out for private lessons or whatnot. So start thinking about, you are your own brand. You are your own brand. You are your own business. If you do not have one W-2 job, you need to open a separate business checking account to funnel that other money into. And that is going to make it way easier at tax time. The other reason why I recommend a business savings account is to just get in the habit of setting aside 25 or 30% of all of the freelance income you make, or all of the side hustle income you make, into that business savings, so that you're kind of earmarking it for taxes. You're saying like, okay, I know I'm going to make, $10,000 to $20,000 in side income this year. I'm getting to that point where I'm thinking, okay, I might want to make the leap to entrepreneurship, but I don't know if I'm ready yet, but I have some side income. Really building those good financial habits early by keeping that income separate is going to be way easier when you do decide to go full-time into your business. When even if you keep freelancing for the next few years, you might go from making $5,000 in extra income and owing an extra, $500 in taxes, which was not a big deal 3 years ago, to all of a sudden owing an extra $5,000 in taxes, and just needing to be prepared for that because, hey, you made 25 grand extra in freelance income this year. That's awesome. But we just need to make sure that we're setting aside money for that. Yes.
Totally.
And then I like what you said earlier about like one card. So also thinking about, if a lot of times we do have business expenses, thinking about getting one business credit card that you put all of those expenses on. So if you have good credit, making sure that, hey, I'm using this card for all of those web subscriptions we talked about earlier, going on that card, figuring out, okay, I'm using this card to charge for conferences or flights to conferences, the hotel for a conference. And that makes it really easy to deduct those expenses next year, right?
Definitely. Do you feel like good money habits can be learned?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're not like inherent, right? Like, it's like people will be like, oh, I'm bad with money. And I'm like, who told you that?
Exactly. Yeah.
You
heard it straight from the financial planner, guys.
Yeah, I mean,
no more excuses.
And a lot of times, like, they'll know exactly who told them too. They'll be like, oh, my mom, or they'll be like, oh, my ex. They'll know. And I'm like, you're not bad with money. I'm like, let me show you what you do really well. You're really good at making money. You're really good at like like you have X amount of dollars in a savings account. I'm like, we just need to build up the retirement account. We just haven't, taken retirement seriously. And now you're ready to start. So this is great, So I really try to focus on what are you already doing well, and how can we take those good habits and incorporate them to these other areas of your finances. And also, I look at very similar situations all day. And so it's easy for me to see where are some holes in your financial plan, right?
Yeah.
It's like there are certain areas, like I kind of mentioned earlier, insurance is a big one because we think about building up savings. We think about paying down debt. We think about like investing. We're not like, it's super sexy when you know that you have renter's insurance.
Yeah.
But renter's insurance is so important. And yet we don't think about what would happen if there was a fire in my apartment. I would lose everything. Is that protected?
Yeah.
And so just like renter insurance is like $20 a month. Like it's super cheap. It's even, it depends how much coverage you want. I'm not giving you a quote. But renter's insurance is super cheap, and it's one of the big things that a lot of millennials overlook because we just don't think about it. We're just like, so focused on other things. We're not like, oh, that's important. Oh, and it covers for me when I travel too. That's pretty cool. So like if your luggage gets lost or stolen, you can file a claim on your renter's insurance. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
But little things like that are like how I really try to educate my clients around their money. And like, this is why it's important. Or like, yeah, this wasn't important a few years ago, but now it is, So for me, it's just really fun to be able to educate people around their finances because I take the position that nobody cares about your money more than you do, and that you are the expert in your own life. So I need to know like, what is stressing you out about your money right now? Like what is so important? And it might be, my student loans, or it might be, I might have a new client come to me and have $100,000 in a savings account. And I'll be like, how much do you need to sleep at night? And I'll be like, tell me about what money was like growing up for you. And I'll find out that their family filed for bankruptcy when they were young, and that it was really important that they can always pay their mortgage, And so I'm like, okay. So I normally recommend 3 months of net pay saved for emergencies, but that's probably not going to be enough for you. So how much do you need to sleep at night? And they'll be like, 50 grand. I'll be like, okay, can we talk about what to do with this other 50?
Yeah. Sounds like a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny, but it's true. And that's how, that's why I get, reporters are like, are millennials afraid to take risks? Are we as conservative as our grandparents? And oftentimes it's like, they're like, I just don't know like what I should do with it. I just want to be with it. So I just built this savings account, and now what? Now I have enough that I'm ready to do something with it, know? And a lot of times what I do is we kind of explain, figure out what's this number that we need in savings and for short-term goals. Maybe we have some upcoming travel or whatnot. And then let's take more risk with these retirement accounts, right? We can have more stocks in those because we have a long time horizon. We know we're not taking that money for 30 or 40 years. And then a lot of times we say, okay, well, let's build up this middle bucket that's like an investment account outside of retirement that we can touch if we want to. And we might not really be sure what we're going to use this money for, but we might invest that a little bit less aggressively than we would our retirement accounts. So a lot of times I like to look at our money in buckets, and each bucket serves a purpose and has like a goal attached to it.
Totally.
And as soon as I start explaining that to clients, they're like, oh yeah, we can totally rebalance the 401k. Like I just, picked a fund early on and I didn't realize it didn't have many stocks in it, and then they're like, oh, they're totally on board with that because they also know they have enough money to sleep at night and there's enough savings there and that they're going to be okay. So then that's how I get them to ramp up their 401k contributions and how to, start investing some of that money outside of their savings account or retirement account. But it's just educating people around their money and figuring out how do we, again, align this money with our goals, right? Because then it's not whether the stock market's going up or down. It's about the goal. Like, when are we going to need this money? How much money are we putting away every month? And is this the right vehicle for this money for now based on our goals.
Super helpful. Sophia, I feel like this was really educational, especially because I know that a lot of people who are listening, they don't know what they don't know. So I really appreciate you coming on today and schooling us a bit. And I want to make sure that everyone can find you, whether that's your website or social media handles. So what's the best place for that?
Yeah, so my website is genyplanning.com, like Generation Y, so GENY as in the letter. And my Twitter handle is at Sophia Bera, SOPHIABERA. I love Twitter. That's my jam. If you want to apply to be a client of Gen Y Planning, it's genyplanning.com/apply. And there's a quick Google form that you fill out. And then if you're like, hey, this was great, I want to learn a little bit more, but I'm not sure where to start, my newsletter is free. Awesome. I have an ebook that's $4.99 that's called What You Should Have Learned About Money But Never Did, a Gen Y guide to empowered personal finance. And then I just launched a course last year on retirement planning. So if that's an area that you're really interested in knowing more about, you're like, hey, I kind of got the savings and the, paying down debt down, but I don't know what I should be doing over here. I really recommend you check out the course. It's called Smart and Easy Retirement Planning for Millennials. So check that out, and you can go to, you can find that on my website, and it's there. genyplanning.com/retire is the course page. So all those things, hopefully one of those is a good fit for you. You can learn more about me, but I'd love to hear from you. And it's been so much fun being on your podcast today, Kim. Thanks again.
You're so welcome. And we'll have all of those linked up in the show notes as well. So people can go to theboldlifemovement.com and I'll have those all linked up.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Sophia. And there you have it. Big thanks to Sophia for coming on today's show. If you're like me, then you probably learned a thing or two from today's chat. And to make it even easier for you to go take action, I've created a quick step action guide now up at theboldlifemovement.com/052. I know for some of you, it will take the boldest, baddest form of brave for you to get real with your finances, but I have faith in you. Let this mini-series be the motivation that you need to get ahead. So head over to theboldlifemovement.com/052 and grab your free quick action guide. While you're there, leave me a comment about today's episode and let me know what you thought. Until next week, big hugs, lots of love. Signing off.